Do check on yours.
Check.
Is it on?
Yeah.
No, up. That's why I'm not picking you up.
Was it off this whole time? Oh my God. You handed me an off microphone.
Sorry. All right, this is the EKN Hot Seat. Welcome to a podcast that we've been trying to establish here a little bit over the last couple of years. Unfortunately, time at racetrack is very limited with the amount of activities going on the racetrack, on and off the racetrack, I should say. So I am David Cole here with the EKN Hot Seat. We had a couple guests lined up over the last couple of past events, but unfortunately it didn't work out. Now we actually are able to wrangle in one of the industry members of our sport. He's across the board, not only a driver, but also in the industry as a helmet painter and a driver coach as well with Korsasport and Oktane Visual, the two different companies that he's run. TJ Koyen is joining me here. So we're going to get in a little bit about TJ Koyen's experience through the sport of karting and then we'll get into a couple of current topics about the sport as well. So let's start off, and I won't interrupt you. This is take 2 actually, so we'll get into that a little bit. I'll let you kind of go through your progression in the sport, where you started, what you've done through your career, and where you are at this current point right now.
So I started racing go-karts when I was 11 years old, which would have been 2001. And I started racing at Badger Kart Club in Dousman, Wisconsin. And I did club racing for a few years, running Yamaha, Sportsman, and then through the various Yamaha classes, up to KPV, Comet, whatever you want to call it, and then tag classes eventually too. And in between there, we started doing regional and national races, kind of dipped our toes a little bit, and then once we felt comfortable, we started running that a little bit more, and then since probably about 2008 or 9, it's been strictly regional and national stuff. And then the past few years has been very minimal racing for me because I'm an old man now. But every now and then I get let out of the house and get to come to the track a little bit, and that's what we're doing here this weekend.
Exactly. So we'll get to that a little bit later. Let's talk about kind of the start. In our opening take that we recorded but wasn't picking up your microphone, you talked about you didn't get started in kid karts. That's kind of one of the major factors right now. Why didn't you get started? Why did it take so long for you to get involved in the sport that obviously you love?
Yeah. So I remember going to the racetrack when I was 5 years old with my parents to watch at Dousman. My dad took me to watch the go-kart races the one day, and he was like, "This is really cool. Wouldn't it be really cool to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah." And my mom was like, "Absolutely not." So yeah, I think my mom was a little bit tentative and a little bit worried about me.
Right.
Her baby boy going out there and burning rubber. So.
And yet she was the race fan.
Right. She was the race fan. So she was. You would have thought she was interested into it, but she decided that we needed to wait a little bit longer. So I got a little bit older, a little bit bigger. So she was able to hold off my dad for 5 years or so until I was 11, and then my dad was like, we got to do this. It's so cool. Let's do it.
Well, and that's an interesting age because it's at the upper echelon of, say, sportsman at that time or cadet. Yeah. So there's a lot of kids that, I don't know, probably at that time at least had 4 to 5 years of racing already, and you came in no laps whatsoever right into the sport.
Yeah.
Was it a tough transition to begin? What kind of walk us through how that went?
I think we had a pretty measured approach to do it. Obviously, we didn't want to be like a problem out there on the track. So my dad made me just run practice days. Like I didn't race right away. I practiced just practice days for half a year before I actually raced. And he was like, once you get to this lap time where we know we're not going to get lapped, we're not going to be in the way too much, then we can race. Which was kind of cool because it gave me an incentive to improve and get better so I could race. So yeah, we did a half a season of just practice, and then once we got to the racing, I mean, I remember paging through the rule book and all this stuff, trying to remember what I got to do. And I remember my first heat race, I lined up in the back because at Badger, when you're a rookie, you start in the back no matter what.
Yes, yeah.
And
not a lot of clubs do that anymore.
No, and they really
because
should.
I think Badger still does that.
Yeah, Badger still does that. And they don't always qualify. It's a lot of times just P-pick heat races.
That makes sense because you don't want to get mixed in with the guys trying to pass.
Yeah.
They have experience. Okay.
Yeah, they do qualify now sometimes, which is also good. But so I started right in the back of the pack, and I remember they waved off the first green flag start because everybody was out of line, and I had no idea that was even an option, and I just piled right into the cart in front of me, and the track marshals are waving at me and gesturing, and I was like, I don't even know what's going on.
No idea.
But yeah, so I would say from a driving perspective, I was pretty well prepared going in. I wasn't too worried about the driving, but like the logistical stuff of where do I go? How do I start a race? What do the flags mean? That stuff I needed a little bit more practice.
And again, when you first start out, that's a major part of it because it's something you don't want to do at the national level, but that's something we do see. Like for some reason, we're now like shoving new people out in the national level, which I don't think really. It's again. It's kind of been a topic. We'll get into it a little bit right now. National licensing system.
Yeah.
Like my thoughts of it's something we need.
Yeah.
It's something we need to track. Now with all the electronic, like everything digital, we can see when this driver races at track A, track B, track C, and then they go to track D. They know exactly what they've done over the course of not only the season, but throughout their career. Is that something that you think the sport needs? Or do you think that's just something whatever?
I think it's absolutely something the sport needs because you do see a lot of, at these national races, you do see people who are showing up with very minimal experience. And I think it's going to be a better experience overall for them, too, if you prepare them before they come here. It's like I was saying, it's no fun to come here and spend all this money and be 2-3 seconds off the pace.
Right.
Because you're just not ready yet. You need more experience. You need more time.
But what about those that are fast enough but don't have the racecraft? Because, again, racecraft is a whole nother issue that we could go on forever and ever about.
And that's why I think that licensing thing needs to happen because you get a lot of guys, too, and you see it sometimes here where, you go to a track and you have club racers, and they can do a lap. They're very fast at their home track, but they race against two guys normally or whatever it is, and they have no idea how to pass. They don't know how to run a race. And, I think it's going to be better for them in their development, too, if they get a little bit more time running with other karts and leveling up instead of jumping right into the deep end right away.
Good. I'm glad you support my idea with that.
Of course.
Hopefully down the road we'll be able to establish something like that. But I think because the way America is, it's kind of like I don't think everybody will follow along. Do you think that's going to be one of the concerns? Like tracks would be like, oh, I don't need this. Or this series is like, I don't need that licensing system.
Yeah, I mean, overall, we know the sport is kind of fractured. It's a big country. There's a lot of vested interests between engine manufacturers, tire manufacturers, all this stuff. So it's hard to get everybody on the same page. But I think we're getting to a point in karting now where there is some cooperation between the major series, at least. Because a lot of people are just really sick of like poor driving standards and people showing up who are not ready to be there yet. We obviously have a problem with driving standards for the past 10 years or whatever it is at this point. And we get things like the pushback bumper, which helps for a while, and then people find other ways to wreck people and run people off the road. So I think absolutely a licensing system is needed, and I think if it ever comes into play, I think you'll see big series and major names in the sport jump on board with that and support it.
We just need an entity to actually take care of it because that's one of the problems. And I've said it in the past. I don't think ACUS does enough for the sport of karting here in the United States. Yeah. Where you look at Canada, ACUS, the ACUS of Canada or the ASN of Canada is behind karting 100%, or at least used to be. Now that they've gone through the turmoil, it's Italy, other countries that are all behind the sport of karting. They understand the revenue it can create, but they also understand that possible Formula One drivers, possible IMSA here, but like World Endurance Challenge or other international motorsports competitions will come from the sport of karting, not just a doctor that has a lot of money.
Yeah, and all those series have licenses too.
Right.
You have to prove that you're eligible to be there.
Yeah.
So why would you not incorporate that into the lower levels where guys literally have zero experience?
Right.
At least when you get to those levels, they kind of know what they're doing, even if
but even SCCA, you have to start somewhere.
Right.
But at least they have a record of what races you are at, how you.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the one thing. Like, if you've never been to a SCCA race, they actually have people in race control marking down all of the calls that are made by corner workers for either dropping a wheel or spinning out or contact.
Yeah.
They actually record all of these incidents. So, I mean, we have all the penalties recorded in Race Hero and the MyLaps and all the scoring software. It's not hard for a system to record all of this, and not necessarily, every bumper penalty or maybe every contact is a penalty against your license, but at least it shows what you've done and the type of driver you are kind of becoming.
Yeah, and like you said, we have all the data. We have the tools to do this.
Right.
I think the main issue is just getting everybody on board with it.
Yeah.
Because SCUSA is going to want to do their own thing, and USPKS is going to want to do their own thing to some extent, but obviously my dad is series admin here, so I have a little insight on background stuff between all these series. I think there is a desire to cooperate a little bit on some of this stuff and
I
try
agree.
to improve the sport as a whole.
Yeah, we've talked with everybody here at USPKS, Rock Cup USA, Superkarts USA. There is that want. Again, it just has to kind of come together.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the next step that we're at with that.
Yeah, there's been some specific incidents the last couple of years where it was like a little bit embarrassing, I think, for the sport overall. So I think you have these series now being like, all right, we need to fix this.
And not just here, but international as well, too, because, you got some guy throwing a nose cone at karts.
Yeah.
You got fist fights at the scale line. That's just, stuff you don't need.
Yeah. And that stuff travels word of mouth, and you hear about it, you forget about it. But if you have a licensing system and you can keep track of that, and you can say, that guy, remember that guy?
Right.
He's got a point on his license or whatever it is. I think it's going to be better.
Do you think looking back at early in the career, do you think a licensing program would have been a good idea for some of the the old WK Manufacturers Cup races and Midwest Sprint Series stuff?
Well, I would say there was certainly some ridiculous stuff going on.
Yeah,
I would say everything was a lot tamer back then.
It was more
general.
just kind of man versus man situation, where now it's almost kid versus kid, right?
Yeah, I would say some of that has trickled down to the junior classes where we have some pretty fired up juniors out there a couple times. But I think in general, like we just talked about, the past 10 years, the driving standards have gotten worse. We all know that. And I think everything's just gotten more aggressive.
Now, what you mentioned, the pushback bumper, kind of. No problem. We'll keep going. We're good. That was loud, though.
That was
Thanks,
very
Scott.
loud.
Yeah, keep going.
But make it quiet.
We need a restrictor on that. What kind of just kind of put it out there? What are your thoughts right now on the pushback when it was introduced to what it is now?
I still think it's a good idea.
Okay.
I was in favor of it when it was introduced. It's not a perfect system. We all know that. It sucks on the first lap when you get piled into from behind and you knock your bumper in on the guy in front of you. But I think of it as if you're training to go up the open wheel ladder, you can't touch another car or your wing's going to fall off. It doesn't matter how you touch another car, what the reason for that was.
Right.
You have to be conscious of that and protect the car a little bit.
And, yeah, that's something we've seen over the progression, like F4.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen a lot of incidents with karters going into the car racing. They just kind of don't care and just plow into drivers and, my wing's not there. I can't drive this car. I have to come pit. And then their career, a lot of kids have suffered with that. So I guess that's one good point. But I mean, looking ahead, is that something that we're going to see continue? Do you think that pushback bumper is here for the infinity amount of time for the sport of karting?
I hope so.
Okay.
I would say that I mean, I can remember getting yelled at by a lot of race directors several years ago because we didn't have bumpers, and guys are just driving through people.
Yeah.
Once you introduce the full width rear bumper, you need something to curb the temptation to just drive through somebody. And I think the pushback bumper isn't perfect, but it does a good enough job.
Yeah.
And they keep tweaking the penalties, to make it a little bit more fair. So it isn't, like a race ender if you make minimal contact or whatever. But I think the system it's a constant dialing it in.
Well, then the video stuff has been a kind of a huge thing because you can show, hey, we got bottled up at the start, but now I know sometimes they're not reviewing the starts depending on what's going on. But a lot of times, like you said, the contact that actually pushes in the bumper isn't necessarily malicious or a penalty-worthy contact.
Or a wreck happens in front of you and you drive into a cart that you couldn't avoid, and you get not only now have you broken your go-kart and lost 15 spots, now you get a bumper penalty on top of it. It sucks, but I think they're making provisions to counteract that kind of stuff too. So I think it's just a work in progress, and it's tough because the driving standards keep moving. We're more aggressive here, less aggressive here. So sometimes they think they have it figured out on the penalties, and then sometimes they go, oh, this is completely out of control. We need to be harsher. So it's a tough thing to manage, and the problem is you're never going to make everybody happy. But I think it's a reasonably good system.
So as a driver coach, is pushback bumper something you talk about with your drivers, or is that more for the experienced drivers and not necessarily the new kids or drivers coming into the sport?
Well, David, I am a very clean driver, and I always tell my drivers to be very clean.
But that's how it should be, period.
Yeah,
but again, there's going to be contact in racing.
It's go-karting. We have plastic side pods and bumpers. You're allowed to make a little bit of contact here and there, as long as you're not firing somebody into a pond over there on I-70. But,
again, sometimes you're drafting a guy and we're pulling up on somebody and they might brake check and it gets pushed back. Is that a topic, or is that just something you talk about?
We have conversations about this where, especially with the younger kids, the problem with the younger kids is they don't always see the big picture. They see what's right in front of them,
right,
and they take everything personally. So it's always a constant, they did this to me, they wronged me. And we have to look at the video and go, well, actually, but I think you could have left another foot there and your bumper would have got pushed in.
Right.
You're being unreasonably close and aggressive with this guy. So we do have those conversations because a lot of these kids are just, they think they can just lean on each other all the time. And you got to remember, you have that pushback bumper, so you got to talk about it sometimes.
And that's exactly it. You leaning on each other. Like, that's one of the biggest things that you see in mini, micro, and even sometimes in the junior categories is they don't realize or understand how to back off a tad going through a corner, because if that driver in front of them makes a mistake, they won't have room if they're on their bumper through the entire corner. Is it
right?
I mean, it's hard. Is it hard to, because they don't have the experience of that, to get it through to, like, hey, give them a little space? Is it just something that you have to repetitively tell them, or is it just something they have to experience to understand?
I think a lot of it is experiencing it to understand. I think a lot of go-karting and learning how to drive fast and competent is experience. Like, you're just not going to get it when you're 9 years old. You've been racing for 2 years. You haven't seen all these situations yet. So as they come up, you learn about them. But you definitely see kids who are just on the bumper and they just run into a guy and then they go, well, I couldn't get by him. And then so it's not necessarily about bumper penalties, but it's about, if you leave 2 feet here, just back up the braking 2 feet. You're going to get the run off the corner.
Right.
So you can teach them that kind of stuff. It's not always about avoiding a penalty, but it's about keeping, it's racecraft.
But necessarily, you're not necessarily avoiding the penalty. You're trying to gauge a pass or plan a pass.
Yeah, it's basic racecraft stuff. Yeah. And a lot of these kids have one speed, and that's flat out all the time. I don't care who's in front of me. I don't care who's behind me. I'm just going to be driving. I'm either going to drive through this guy or around him. That's always, that's something we are seeing across not only club and regional level, but even at the national level too. As a driver coach, what is like one of the main, is it key elements that you're trying to get? Is it consistency, or is it just paying attention to
to the racetrack itself and how to drive a certain racetrack?
Consistency is a major thing for kids that age, and I think a lot of it comes down to lack of focus. Okay. When you're that age, you're pretty easily distracted by everything, and I can understand that. So a lot of it is consistency. I get a kick out of it. Sometimes these dads will come up to me and they'll be like, "Oh man, that kid who won the race, so consistent." And I was watching the same race and I go, "I saw 5 mistakes in 5 laps." I mean, the level of consistency is just down for everybody in that class because it's a young kids class. And now, on the opposite end of it, I understand now why these guys in Masters make mistakes sometimes, because I'm out there making all kinds of mistakes.
Well, but that has to deal with not having enough track time. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, some of that is not having track time, but also I think some of it is getting older.
We pause for this quick commercial break. Stay tuned for more here on the EKN Radio Network. In karting, it's important to be supported by the right people. With over 40 years of experience in the sport, Trinity Karting Group has everything you need to make your program successful. We do it all, and we do it right. Trackside support and arrive and drive programs at many of karting's biggest East Coast events, full product sales and service, and professional coaching from our experienced staff. Trinity Karting Group is a full-service operation based at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, which gives us access to our custom-designed driver training facility. This allows us to offer private one-on-one coaching to take you to the next level. From arrive and drive and coaching programs to the parts you need, let Trinity Karting Group provide you with customer service and a racing experience second to none. Trinity Karting Group is an official Kart Republic race team, providing full trackside support at all the major USA karting events, including the SCUSA Pro Tour, United States Pro Kart Series, SCUSA Super Nationals 25, and other events throughout the 2022 season. TKG has in stock Kart Republic, IAME, MG and Avinco tires, and more products for those in Ohio and the Midwest region. Trinity Karting Group has a long history of the sport, a winning pedigree, and we're dedicated to driver development. We take pride in our professional approach and our positive attitude. Let us build a custom race program for you. Give us a call at 513-421-4463 or check us out online at trinitykartinggroup.com. It all started in 1994 when former successful kart driver Albino Parolin decided to move his passion for karting from the track to his small workshop. That's when Parolin was born. Fast forward 20 years and Parolin's passion for the sport led to the company rejoining international competitions as a factory team in WSK and CIK FIA races, with the aim of enhancing the research and development process, immediately achieving notable results around Europe, North America, and Asia, becoming the CIK FIA Asia Pacific KZ champion in the same year. Parolin USA is North America's source for Parolin products, and we run a factory team at all of the major Superkarts USA and Rock Cup USA events. The Parolin chassis lineup for 2021 includes the Invader Shifter, the Le Mans Tag single-speed chassis for junior and senior classes, and the 28mm mini kart for the cadet classes. Parolin has been winning races all over the world, and it's on top of the podium in the USA as well, with drivers like Kai Sorensen, Mateus Orjuela, and Alessandro De Tullio. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. For more information, head to ParolinUSA.com. Thank you for listening to the EKN Radio Network. We now join the show already in progress.
You revert back a little bit to a cadet driver when you get up into the 30s, mid-30s, upper 30s.
As a two-time Masters champion, I don't think Scott Kopp makes any mistakes out there.
I think Scott Kopp is driving the best of his life in his early to late 30s. Is going to be the best period of his career. And he finally figured it out 20 years in.
But that's a great point. Not everybody is going to get it as a child. I know me. Yeah. I was like you, where when I started at 10 and 11, I was getting lapped twice in a heat race.
They should have kept you practicing for another half a year.
Well, but we never practiced, right?
Well,
we would only go
key.
race because, again, the track's not open every day, all day. So again, it was a different time to where now tracks are open 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
You can go in and pound out 100 laps a day and get comfortable with the kart itself. I think that is one of the biggest elements in terms of kids in karting, but also adults as well too, because like you said, the older you get, the kind of muscle memory, it's not always there. So is it just repetition, or do you think there's an element in certain people that they're just naturally gifted to where they can hop in a cart and be able to go and be fast no matter when they race?
There's so many aspects of racing. Driving fast is one aspect of racing. So there's a lot of people who can drive fast. But managing a race, managing your tires, understanding what the kart's doing, figuring out how you got to tune the kart, figuring out how to race, and pass and defend and all that stuff. There's so many aspects of it. And it takes everybody a different amount of time. A lot of these kids that I coach in the cadet range, mostly 8 to 12, is most of the kids that I work with. Some of them get it. They just get it, and you don't know why. Yeah. And some of these kids, you tell them the same thing every session, and they go, I get it, and they do the same thing every session. And it's just whenever they're ready to make that change.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. Like I said, I got lapped twice every heat race. By the time I was 16, it came to me to where, okay, I just need to focus on what I'm doing rather than focusing on everybody else.
Yeah, usually we've seen this for years from coaching and working with drivers and stuff, is there's usually a year where there's an off season and somehow it all clicks. I don't know if it's them maturing mentally or whatever it is, but they go from being a mid-pack driver, and then next season, through the winter break, there's no driving, there's no practice happening, but all of a sudden, it's like, oh, you're on it now. You get it.
It's like a light bulb.
Yeah.
It just shines.
And Scott Kopp's light bulb turned on when he was 30 years old. But some of these kids, it turns on, 8, 9, when they hit juniors sometimes, they get a bigger kart, they get the full-size kart, and it all starts to make sense for them.
Well, and it's no different than some drivers are not good, they're kind of mid-pack in karting, but you get them in a car, and all of a sudden they come alive. It's just a different driving style.
Yeah.
And kind of goes to how they feel more comfortable.
Yeah, and vice versa, too. You get a guy who's an extremely good karter, and they get in a car, and they've become so attuned to the go-kart. All of a sudden, you got weight and suspension or a wing maybe, and they have no idea what any of that stuff feels like. So sometimes it doesn't always translate. I think when I coach, I try to coach from a karter's perspective, because I think a lot of driver coaches give you the basic stuff of this is where you apex, this is where you brake. And it's more of a general driving perspective. But my experience is all go-karting. I never got the chance to go race cars, so I try to give it from a pure go-karting perspective, because it is different. There are some key intricacies to go-karting that you don't have to take into consideration in something with suspension or weight. So,
and another thing too is, especially in our sport, chassis are a lot different from one another. Especially here in Franklin, they work with OTK products.
Yeah. But
they also obviously have been the Merlin importer for a number of years.
Yeah.
You've raced on both. You've done OTK. You've done Merlin. Is it some drivers are more conducive to certain brands, or just the way their driving style is? Is that what it is? Or, I mean, because we've seen any number of different karts be fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Brandon Lemke could jump in a lot of things.
Yep.
Alex Speed raced in every different type of shifter kart there's out there, and it's been fast in it. Is it the driver themselves that dictate how fast they can be in a specific brand?
I think a lot of it comes down to, so when you are just a good driver, when you're a good driver.
So top 10, top 15?
When you're a top 10, top 15 driver, maybe you're more sensitive to that sort of thing, because you're not a complete driver. We talk about complete drivers being somebody who can adapt. They have great racecraft. They can do one fast lap for qualifying. They have all the skills. Okay. But some of these drivers don't have all those skills. They have some of them, which means they can be pretty good. So I think those drivers are more sensitive to kart brand maybe. But the reality is, I think any of these go-kart brands can be fast. You just have to know how to tune it, and have to know how to drive it. Right. And you get, all those guys you talked about, you look at Norberg. He can run the OTK. He ran the Burrell. He won on the Burrell. He ran PCR when he first moved up to seniors.
Yeah.
He won on that,
junior, I think he was racing.
Yeah.
I don't know if he did.
I think he
senior.
started.
Maybe he did one year.
He did senior.
Okay.
I remember him running X30
All right.
or Leopard or whatever it was. But
I think it was Leopard, yeah.
he's a guy who can change chassis brands, and he's going to be at the front. You take any of these really, really good guys, they're going to be fast on whatever you put them on because they can adapt to
Brand new
it.
Jarzakrak. I think even Braden Eves. You know, he's done a lot. Obviously, he's done car stuff. He's up to USF or Indy Pro 2000.
Yeah, Eves he ran OTK. He ran the
VME. He's now on a kart, willpower kart this week,
Yeah.
and he's done that the last couple of years where he's been fast in that. So, yeah, that makes sense. But as a driver coach, do you suggest like a brand for somebody? Because I know you've worked with a number of different drivers outside of the Franklin tent, even you know here over in Badger and different areas. Like, is it a suggestion maybe? Hey, you know what? I think OTK fits you. Is that something you can do as a driver coach?
I think it's kind of hard to spot that. At least for me, it is. But I just try to push people to somewhere where they're going to get somebody who can help them with that. I think the most important thing when you're learning and you're coming through and you don't know everything is you get hooked up with somebody like Jamie or whoever it is, whatever team or kart shop it is, and you say, you know, what chassis do you guys run? And then you have somebody who's going to be a guiding light for you there. So I don't necessarily try to say this is going to be better for your driving style or whatever. But I do try to say, you know, get involved with somebody who knows this go-kart. So if you drive an OTK kart, find an OTK guy.
Right.
You know, that might be me. I don't know who it is, but I think that stuff is more important.
And that
brand.
That's something that Franklin does. I mean, they work endless hours working with all the different customers, trying to get them situated and more comfortable with what they're doing. And again, it's a hard thing to find because not every area in our country has a Franklin Motorsports in next to their their home racetrack, or within a couple of hours even, or somebody like that. You know, even a driver coach. Like there are people who claim to be a driver coach, right? Like I don't want to get negative on that, but there are people who claim to be a driver coach that are just kind of like and they don't really know what they're talking about, but they may think they know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
it's a hard gamble. Let's get in a little bit into your full-time job, your day job, of helmet painting with Oktane Visual. What was it that triggered the artistic side of you? I know it wasn't helmet painting that you did originally. What was it that got you into that art side of things?
So, I mean, as long as I can remember, that's what I've been into, has been drawing pictures, doing art. I still have some hand drawings that I did when I was a few years old that my mom has saved. So I was always drawing stuff. And by the time I got to high school, I was like, I think art something is what I want to do. So I ended up taking a bunch of graphic design class in high school, and then I went to college for graphic design. And
you can grab beer.
Rick, come get a beer.
Go ahead. Yeah, keep talking.
I went to college for graphic design, and so I knew I wanted that to be my career. It wasn't necessarily in motorsports. It was, that was going to be my day job. And then,
advertisement, whatever, right?
Yeah. So I ended up getting a job at Trek Bicycle, which is kind of local to me where I live, and it was just a pretty cool company to work for. And I did graphic design on like bike components and helmets and stuff there. So if you have a Trek Bicycle at home and you got some Bontrager components on there, chances are I designed the graphics on those.
That's pretty sweet.
It's pretty cool. But eventually so on the side I was painting my own helmet.
Right.
Because I had gotten a couple helmets painted and I thought, this is pretty cool. I think I could probably do this. So I started experimenting with it a little bit, and I was just kind of doing it for fun. And then eventually I got good enough where some other people were like, you want to paint mine? And I was like, sure. And then eventually I got even better at it, and a lot of people were coming to me to have me paint their helmet. And it got to a point where I was like, well, I mean, I don't really need to work at Trek anymore, I don't think. I think I could do this full time.
Right.
And I think as a creative person, that's kind of like the dream scenario where you're not beholden to a company and rigid hours and management and all that stuff. And
right.
It gives you a lot of freedom. So I was really happy to take that jump. It was kind of scary, but I think it's been 8 years, maybe 7 or 8 years, where that's been my full-time gig, is just painting helmets.
Yeah, I mean USBKS 10 years now, 10th year, so it's about the same time.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it was a big jump. Like you had a stable job.
Yeah.
It wasn't going anywhere. Everybody's buying bikes, especially during COVID. Everybody was buying bikes.
Yeah.
So what did you have support from the family? What did you need that, like, somebody to say, yes, you can do this?
I would say generally I'm kind of a risk-averse person.
So I
really have to think and consider things. So it took me about a half a year to a year to really build up the courage to say, let's just do it. But everybody was pretty supportive. Family and friends were all like, yeah, you should do it. You know, I ran the numbers 100 times in my head, and I was like, it adds up. It makes sense. I think I can do it. It's just a scary thing to leave that steady job, the paycheck, the insurance, all that stuff, where you know you're going to be bringing home a set amount of money. Well, and now it's whatever work you do, that's what you get paid for.
And again, it's no different from somebody starting something in the karting industry. You know, again, we've had our ups and downs in the sport, in the industry, especially, 2008 when everything went down, and then, everybody was wondering when COVID hit, how things were going to transpire. And now we've seen a big uptick because, again, it's an outdoor sport and everything. Yeah. So it's been a great growth period over the last 2 years for a sport. But that's certainly, something that is you don't quite know. But do you think having the customer base already established, do you think that was one of the major selling points on doing your own business?
Yeah, I think one of the keys for me was being at the racetrack. So people saw me all the time.
Right. They knew who you were.
Yeah, and
you weren't somebody overseas,
right,
painting these helmets.
Right, they knew who I was, and at this point I had been around for 15 years.
Right.
In the sport, so most people knew who I was. Yeah, I think that was a big thing, and as you get more work, it just naturally builds. People see more and more helmets, and they go, "Oh, well, your growth is spread wider and wider across the country," and then you get eventually where you're doing stuff all over the country or even internationally.
Yeah. What let's get into the creative side of things. Has it been a steady process, or have you had kind of some, roadblocks or is it good because drivers have a lot of feedback on what they want or what they visualize?
It's tough because every single driver is different.
Yeah.
Everybody is different in what they want. Everybody's different in how much freedom they want to give you. Sometimes I get very, very detailed and specific instructions on what to design and paint. And other times people go, I like the color purple. And that's all I get. So, that's kind of why I like it, because it's a different thing every time. So it's a challenge. It's not the
same cookie cutter scenario.
It's all custom stuff, and even the process is custom. Everybody is a little bit different. I haven't had any major roadblocks, fortunately.
Okay.
But I mean, there's been a few mishaps over the years. It's I'm learning every single day, still to this day after doing it for 10 years.
I mean, that's no different from any occupation or even in the sport here in karting. You're always learning something new or something different. What do you think? Like, maybe say top 3 helmets that you painted. Like, what do you think those? Over the last, decade that you've been doing this, what do you think are the top 3 helmets you painted?
I would say I've really hit my stride in the past 2 years or 3 years, maybe, when I've been really happy with what I've been doing. And I would say the one behind you, Scott's helmet, that one's I really like that one.
Yeah.
I really like my own helmets, naturally.
Well, that helps, yeah. I mean, that should be number 1, right?
Those should be number 1. I do really like my current one, but it's tough because every single helmet I do, I go, we could have tweaked that, we could have changed that a little bit. I'm
so you're
my
not
own
static.
Worst enemy.
You're always trying to improve, which is something you do as a driver, right?
Yeah, it's kind of the same mindset. You're always chasing perfection, but you're probably never going to get there. But that keeps you going, I'm out there in that last session, and I'm chasing perfection, and I blow the cell tower corner, and I'm cursing myself in my helmet, going, I know I screwed up.
And you're
I know how to do that.
off.
Yeah, exactly. So it's fun that it's a constant challenge to keep pushing yourself to get better and better and better.
All right, so what's the third? You got Scott, yours.
I'm pretty happy with. So I've been doing Connor Daly's helmets in IndyCar the past couple of years.
That's what I was going to bring up.
And this year he's asked for some real wild stuff.
Yeah.
And he's got a pretty cool one that he's been wearing a lot lately. It's a Pokemon-themed helmet, which I'm a pretty big fan of. I think that one's pretty cool.
So you're on Pokemon Go?
I was on Pokemon Go for a little bit.
I remember this a long time ago.
Yeah, but I grew out of that. But after I painted that helmet, I jumped back into Pokemon for a couple weeks because I was really feeling nostalgic.
But you have a 2-year-old. Does not the 2-year-old not watch any of the Pokemon stuff?
I tried to get him to watch it one of those weeks after I painted that helmet, and he was like, no, Dada, no, Dada.
No.
Not into it.
He wants race cars, right?
He wants race cars
all about
all
race
day.
cars. So that's an interesting point. What is your Fletcher, yes. What is he into right now? Like, what is he watching? What is
he watches?
You've
really
taken him to the racetrack, so
yeah, a couple times he's been to the track.
What is he into?
He is really into race cars.
Okay,
but he doesn't like noise too much. Gets a little scared around noise, so that's kind of a tough
something
situation.
he'll grow into.
Yeah, he might get used to that. He might eventually learn to like it. But sometimes in the morning we get up and we go downstairs and he's like, Dada, turn race cars on the TV. Like, he wants to watch race cars, which is cool. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
Before we had him, I told my wife, I was like, I don't want him to be I don't want to push race cars on him. But it's all I watch. It's all I know. So naturally, he's drawn to it a little bit. But his Hot Wheels cars are his favorite thing in the world. And, yeah, he likes to jump on my racing simulator and put my headphones on and steer the wheel around. And what I'll do is I'll put on a YouTube video of like some GoPro footage so he feels like he's driving.
There you go.
He's really into that.
So yeah, it's a simulation, but not necessarily because he's not really
He's
driving
not doing
it.
anything.
Yeah.
He's watching a video of me
feeling
driving.
So again, it's almost like that natural ability that we were talking about. Like, maybe he'll have a natural feel for...
I gotta say, from a coaching perspective, he's got a lot of hand movement that we're really gonna have to sort out because he's just sawing on the wheel the whole time.
Well, but I mean that's typical for a 2-year-old to be all over the place. Even big wheels like up and down the street or driveway.
Yeah, he's kind of a menace when you get him on his little bike or his little scooter or whatever it is.
That's awesome. That's good. So let's talk about kind of current times in terms of your racing right now. You raced Road America. It was kind of the comeback.
I participated at Road America.
Well, you did, but you raced there last year. You had some issues, and you're like, you know what? Was it just the fact that, like, you know what, I got to be able to prove to myself that I can still do it? Is that kind of the mentality, or is it a fun factor thing of you just want to be behind the wheel?
It kills me to sit at home and watch Race Hero.
Yeah.
I see it and I go, I can beat these guys. I can run with these guys. I wish I was out there. And even when I'm coaching at the regional stuff, I all weekend I'm going, I wish I was out there.
So it's just the internal fire, the flame that is still burning.
Yeah, and I raced Road America, and it did not go great. And I was like, man, I wasn't feeling good all weekend. I was feeling kind of sick, so it was kind of a miserable weekend. People kept asking me, are you at least having fun? And I was like, I'm having no fun at all. And so I was not
even
feeling good.
Even had Tommy Gunn on the wrenches.
I know, I felt really bad.
And that's a fun weekend when Tommy Gunn's around, right?
Yeah, it was fun, and I stayed at his house, so it was fun. But I felt really bad for him to be associated with me out there running in the mid to backpack. But so I did Road America because, like we talked about in the beginning, you dip your toes back into the national scene, and that's a local track for me.
Yeah.
But ever since they repaved it, I couldn't really get a hold on it.
Gotcha.
And I still couldn't get a hold on it that weekend. We tried all kinds of stuff, and I just couldn't figure it out. So I wanted to do one more, and I wanted to do it because it's at Newcastle, and I know Newcastle pretty well. So I feel like...
Especially this layout.
This layout, I know... It's crazy. A lot of people are like, "What? I've never run this layout." And
Who
I'm like,
hasn't
what?
run this layout?
This is the only layout I've run. Yeah, this is the only one I know. So, with this layout at this track, I was like, I need to do one more before our second kid comes next month.
Yep.
To
Which
really
is when?
make sure.
What due date? What's the due date?
October 28th is the due date.
Oh, so Vegas is out then for you.
Absolutely, Vegas is out. All the fun is going to be out.
All the fun is gone.
Yeah.
But, okay, so
I decided, I was like, I think I need to do this one last one just to make sure I'm not completely hopeless and I haven't totally forgotten what I'm doing.
We pause for this quick commercial break. Stay tuned for more here on the EKN Radio Network. Need race fuel or oil? Hyperfuels is an authorized distributor for several of the brands that are spec fluids in American karting, including ELF and Aspen Sport. They also stock and ship methanol. Hyperfuels has a web store that can take your orders 24/7, and they ship UPS. That's right, Hyperfuels can ship fuel and oil right to your door. Whether you need ELF Racing Fuels or ELF ATX 909 oil or Aspen Sport 98 octane fuel for SCUSA competition, they have it in stock. When you need it now, go to hyperfuels.com. You can buy all the latest and greatest products on the market, but when you're karting to win, it boils down to one thing: you, the driver. Gain the knowledge and abilities by investing in yourself at the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, and you'll find those extra tenths of a second you need to put yourself on the podium. The school was established by SuperKarts USA Hall of Fame driver Alan Rudolph, with decades of victories and championships in multiple forms of the sport, including other disciplines of racing. The Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, located at the Speed Sports Racing Park in the metropolitan Houston area, is designed to teach driving skills at all levels. The instructors of the Academy have decades of racing experience and educating drivers of all ages. Classes at the Academy will teach the concepts and skills needed both behind the wheel and off the track. From the beginning kart racing experience and intro to karting courses, to their advanced 1-day and 2-day courses and karting clinics, the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy can improve the skills of any driver. For more information on the specific programs that the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy can provide for you, head to speedsports.com and click on the Racing Academy page. Be sure to follow the Academy on social media by searching for Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. Thank you for listening to the EKN Radio Network. We now join the show already in progress.
Because when you just ride around in like 20th, 30th or whatever, after you've been doing it for 20 some years, you're like, am I just lost? Do I not know what I'm doing? So I had to confirm that this weekend. That's my goal, is to prove that I still kind of know what I'm doing.
Well, now Badger Kart Club has a pretty good following at club races, especially in the KA program.
Yeah.
Do you think that would have been something you could have done because there's good drivers that are there, or do you just felt like, you know what, USPKS, it's 60 drivers in KA Senior. This is where I have to prove it to myself.
I would say racing here is for myself. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. It was in the plan to run some club races, right, but I just don't have time to do it. Gotcha. So, yeah, I wanted to run some club because they do have some strong drivers at the club there. But also, I have so many laps at Badger that it would kind of be a lose-lose situation. If I don't win the club race there, I'm going to feel pretty bad. But if I do win, I'm going to feel empty about that. So I wanted to, no offense to the club races at Dousman, but I wanted to make
Challenge.
Sure. Yeah. I fancy myself some sort of national level driver, right, or I did back in the day.
Well, I mean, you've won here. You've won at USPKS. It was a great, what, 20, was it 18?
2018 was the year, was the good year. Yeah. The last good year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it I see the young kids racing, and everybody talks about how great all these kids are, and they're amazing, super good drivers. But in my heart, I'm still 15 years old.
You're the Kevin Harvick right now.
That's exactly it. Yeah. I feel like a young man in my head.
There you go.
Physically, I don't feel like a young man out there. Right. I'm getting woofed. But
again,
we'll
it's something that you've grown into. Like you started low. Again, like you said, you started at just doing practice days. Like that's all you did. And then you've grown into a national competitor. And again, you were one of the few LCQ races ever at the Super Nationals that we actually enjoyed, and was one of the most amazing races ever to see you go from last to third, I think?
31st to 6th.
Okay, so
I got the last transfer spot.
Okay, last transfer spot.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem I have is I don't have that audio recorded because I know Rob Howden was going crazy.
Rob talks about it. He's like, that was an amazing call. I wish we had the audio. But yeah, that was Yeah, it's kind of come full circle. I'm now at the point where I'm practicing for half the year to do this one race because that's how long it takes to knock all that rust off. And I still feel rusty out there. Yesterday, I was out there and I was racing with Aiden Rudolph, who must be half my age.
Yeah, he's 16.
Yeah, and he...
Or 15. Sorry,
so
15.
He's less than half my age at this point. So I passed him, and I immediately drove off the track on the exit. And he drove by me and put his hand up, like, what are you doing? And I was like, yeah, I know. And in the scale line, I was like, dude, I'm sorry. I'm just old and rusty, and I didn't mean to screw all the laps up. And he laughed, and he was like, oh, it's okay, no problem.
Well, it doesn't help that his dad's a driver coach, and now actually he's helping out at not to plug another driver or company, but Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. He's helping coach some of the classes there for the beginners. So he understands some of the stupidity that happens with some newbies. Yeah. And you don't want to be a noob, right?
No, I don't want to be a noob. But I feel a little bit like a noob.
But so what is the perfect timetable to shake off rust? I mean, because I haven't raced in a year, and I'm coming back here in 2 weeks for my first time racing in a year. Does it depend?
Prepare yourself for disappointment.
Well, at least I'm not racing Rob Howden, so at least I won't lose to him. What's generally like? Have you worked with drivers that have like come back to the sport, or maybe had some time off and then came back?
Not really. I don't.
So more new people.
Yeah, the only driver that I've been working with,
Scott Kopp.
No. Scott Kopp at this point is more experienced than I am.
All right, there you go.
The only driver I've been working with that's coming back is me.
Okay.
But I am looking at data. I'm looking at video. I'm comparing to some of these guys who race all the time, and I'm going, I'm making mistakes. I'm screwing this up. I know I'm doing it. You just got to
It's a repetitive thing. It's just not having that repetitive feeling. And
I think at this point, you and I have been driving long enough where there's some muscle memory where you're going to go out there and you're immediately going to feel pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
But that last half a second that you got to find is like...
And it's a lot.
It's exhausting to find.
I can relate to that, especially when I come back here in 2 weeks. So make sure you measure up where I am, because it'll probably be a half second off the top guys.
I'll spot you a half second for your experience.
I don't even know the track layout we're going to do here, but I'm going to put a half second on there.
Yeah.
I forgot where I was going to go next because we were talking about that. Let's get into some current topics.
Sure.
We talked about licensing a little bit, so I think we've kind of covered that a little bit more. Cal Speed. Let's talk about Cal Speed. I don't think you ever got to race there, did you?
No, I did not.
It's closing. Do you think what? It's kind of frustrating because we have some really good facilities, especially here on the eastern side of the country, but on the western side, it's kind of limited. Have you seen the K1 circuit? What are your thoughts on the K1 circuit?
Is that the new one in California?
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks amazing. I haven't looked at it too much, but I saw initial layout pictures or what they were going to do and stuff, and it looks pretty nice.
It's kind of frustrating to see a facility like that because NASCAR owns it. There's obviously some situations regarding they're probably going to sell off land and stuff like that. Hopefully, the people at Cal Speed are able to find another place to go to.
Yeah.
But, what would happen if, say, Badger were to close? What would happen to, the region of Wisconsin, especially around the Milwaukee area, if that racetrack were to close?
It would be pretty tough, I think, because you don't have... we have, Road America, but it's not open as much as Badger is. It doesn't get as big a turnout at the club races. Shawano's basically never used, and it's too far north for most people. The problem is our country is so big. I get a kick out of it sometimes, these guys, I talk to guys in the UK or Europe or whatever, and they're like, oh, I had to drive 3 hours to get to this track. It's on the other end of the country. And I'm like, 3 hours? 3 hours for me would get me to Norway.
Right.
And so I would say Norway, Badger, and Road America are the three closest tracks to me, probably.
Even MRP. It's
MRP's 4 for me.
But it's still kind of close.
It's not a bad.
I mean, that's where a lot of Midwest and route races used to be. Even USPKS was there for some time as well, too. But
yeah, it always sucks when a track closes. But yeah, the country is so big, and you have these metropolitan areas where you have to draw from. And there's only so many people to draw from, and there's only so many tracks that can sustain that sort of thing over time.
And that's exactly it. LA is one of the biggest cities, metropolitan areas in the country, and yet we're limited on the amount of racetracks there, mainly because real estate there is just insane. Like, you could buy Shawano right now for what a house costs in say Rancho Cucamonga or any of the areas around the Los Angeles area. So that's kind of a difficult situation. I forgot where I was going to go next. I knew I should have wrote this down.
You should have wrote these down.
I should have wrote these down because you said something, and I was going to go to it. Now I can't remember what it was. What Super Nationals 25? Obviously, we talked about you can't go. Obviously, your second child is going to be coming. Are you excited about the growth that they're having for this event? Do you think that's something that obviously Formula One's coming there next year? Do you think there's still a growth there for the Super Nationals in terms of where we're going with that?
Yeah.
Oh, that hurt.
Ow. Super Nats it's amazing, and it's always amazing. And it's pretty cool that they can keep growing it. And I think that's because the event is so cool. Part of it is like entries breed entries with any racing series. And Super Nats has the best. So they're going to get more and more and more. And it's such a cool experience to be there. You know, it's like a vacation for us go-karters. You get to go for a week in Vegas. You're right there by the hotel. It's just so fun. It's so cool to wake up and hear go-karts running and look out your window and see them driving around. It's so fun. And I really wish I could go back. I'm not at the level I need to be to race that race, but in my head I still would love to go back and try to race that one again. Maybe someday, but I really do love Super Nats. And I always tell drivers like I'm coaching, once they feel like they're ready, once we're doing some regional and national level stuff, go to Super Nats. Even if you don't make the final, even if you're spending a bunch of money, you will learn more racing Super Nats 1 week than you will in a full season of national racing because the level is just so high.
So it's an educational experience because for a lot of people, it's just a fun weekend.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people go there to learn stuff too, just to watch and figure out how these big teams are operating. You get some factory support there. I think being in that environment, if you're looking to be a competitive go-kart racer, you will just sponge up a bunch of information, and if you're racing, you will be forced to get better because if you don't, you're going to be in the barriers, you're going to not be in the final. Like, it forces you to get better. I think it's an important event just from that perspective.
Well, that's good advice for Rob Howden, hopefully, who will be listening to this podcast, who will be making his first start at Super Nationals. You would think, is it different watching? Like, did you ever go to watch before you went there?
Not before. I raced it. The first time I went was to race, but I have been there a few years just watching and
or working.
Hanging out. Working.
That's what I said. Driver
working.
Coaching.
Yeah. Emptying beer coolers and taking up hotel room space.
Getting some in-and-out orders.
Yeah, playing blackjack, that kind of thing. That's kind of my vibe.
It's Vegas. But anyway, do you learn something by even just watching?
Yeah, because, I think if you're observant and you're watching the racing and seeing what these guys, you're watching KZ world-class drivers there.
Right.
Like, if you're getting a free education if you're
world champions like Lorenzo Travisinato.
Yeah. It's a free education. I always tell the guys I'm coaching, I'm like, do you guys watch F1 or any other motorsport? Because there's free driving clinics going on every weekend. And I think Super Nats is kind of the same way. Like, you go there, watch how so-and-so manages the race. Watch where they make their overtakes, how clean it is. Watch their hands, do all this stuff. I think from an observer's standpoint, you can learn a lot just being there and watching. And then, obviously, if you're in the pits or you know somebody and you can get up close and personal and learn what they're doing to tune the go-kart or whatever it is, you can learn more on that front, too.
Since we're at USBKS, let's talk a little about the series. 10th year, you were part of it for a very long time.
Yeah, since it started.
Are you happy with the direction the series is going? Because they extended to 4 races this year. Now they're going to 5. Do you think that's a good move for the program?
I think that stuff kind of ebbs and flows based on the economy and the climate and everything that's going on. Some years it's better to have 4. Some years it's better to have 5.
Or 3 like we used to.
Or 3. I'm not super concerned either way.
Okay.
But like we said, I do have a little bit of, not influence, but I get to voice my opinion to the guy who kind of manages the series a little bit. So
that helps. I mean, I talk in his ear all the time, and he never listens to me.
He doesn't always listen to me either.
All right. Well, at least it's common, yeah.
Yeah. But I the series has been pretty great. I think they've done a really good job of starting out as nobody really knew what the series was going to be. It's a national series. Is the competition going to show up? Are we going to get the entries? But they've done a really good job, and I think a lot of that comes down to Mark Coates just really loves go-kart racing, and he really cares about making a good series. And obviously,
that's the whole reason it started.
Yeah, that's why he started the series, and I think he still cares about it. Even though Colton's not racing anymore, his nephew's not racing anymore, he still really cares about the series. He cares about people having a good time, and he loves go-karting. And obviously, in anything that you do, any venture you do, if you love it, you're going to make it better just for the sake of making it better. So I think they've done a good job. I think, the event number, 3 to 5 is a good number. Anywhere in there. I think 3 is too little, to be honest. 4 or 5 is good. It'll just be a matter of, I think they said the last one was going to be in October next year, which, at this time of the year, you struggle sometimes with kids in school and stuff like that.
Right.
But, I guess we'll just have to see. But I think they've done a good job promoting it, growing it, and running a nice professional series that still feels like kind of like a family-friendly.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because you were there at the beginning. Do you think it feels a little different now than what it used to be? Is it just mainly because of the size of the program, or is what do you see has changed over the 10 years?
I think the good part is that I don't think a lot has changed in the vibe of the series. It feels like, obviously it's grown. We have way more entries, and it feels like a Midwest run series is how it feels, where you have that friendly down home vibe a little bit, where everybody here is here to have fun, but at the same time it's professional enough where that this is a serious, people are spending a lot of money to be here and race and compete against the best drivers in the country. And I think it's a good contrast. I've run a lot of Pro Tour and SCUSA stuff too, and SCUSA feels a little bit more intense. It seems a little bit more, I don't want to say serious, but intense, I guess I would say.
Intense is a good word. Do you think that's mainly based on the name?
It might be, because the competition level is the same. It's the same guys mostly who are running both series at this point.
Norberg's winning both.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same drivers, so it's not a matter of the drivers, and it's absolutely not a knock on SCUSA or anything.
Right.
It's just a little bit different vibe. Sometimes I think that USPKS could be a little bit more professional on some things, and sometimes I think SCUSA could be a little bit more chill on some things. But they're pretty similar.
A good balance.
Yeah.
You always have to have that, no matter customers that you deal with. You have to have a good balance of what they want and what you can do. Yeah. And that's kind of the feel with USPKS, Superkarts USA.
Yeah, I don't think either one is better or worse for it. I think it's just a slightly different vibe, and it could be a cultural thing. SCUSA's West Coast, this is Midwest, East Coast based, so it could just be, it could be that.
Again, preconceived notions and mindsets. So it's a little different. Speaking of SCUSA Pro Tour, there was the one, I think it was Grand Junction, wasn't it? That was probably your best Pro Tour race that you had?
It was tied for my best Pro Tour.
Okay, tied.
Well, it might be my best one. So I won Summer Nats at Shawano the one time.
That's right.
We forget about that one because it was at Shawano.
Was that 2010?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, so. I wasn't at that race. That was the one aside from Winter Nationals this year, those were the 2 Pro Tour races I had never been to. Yeah. So I didn't get to see you win that one, but I remember Grand Junction like crazy.
Yeah, I won that one. Grand Junction, I was second.
I thought was it second? Third?
Yeah, it was second.
Okay.
It was second. Nicastro won, and I was second. And
Andre Nicastro, who will probably never race Masters, but
he started 30th or something too.
Yeah,
beast mode.
If you had to put a Mount Rushmore of drivers in karting, who would that be?
A Mount Rushmore of drivers. It's very difficult to compare all the different eras. Well, and I would say that the real legends were before my time. But right now, if I had to pick a few drivers,
any era really, who would you put? You could put Lake Speed or Lynn or whoever.
You could put all those guys on there. Huh? You could put all those guys on there. Yeah. Lake Speed is a real legend. Yeah, real legend. It's tough because you get a lot of guys who are really super good that you're racing with, but you race with them for 3 years, and then they move to cars or they do something else. Nicastro, very quality driver, obviously. I raced against him for quite a few years.
Right.
I was never close to him, really, except for that one time at Grand Junction.
Right, and then he has one of the most amazing finishes at the Super Nationals compared to your LCQ result. But that him and David Serra going down to the wire, that was probably one of the more memorable finishes at the Super Nationals.
Yeah. It's hard for me to pick a Mount Rushmore because in my head, I'm competing against these guys, some of these guys still, so it's hard for me to say.
Okay. Let's
my ego is getting in the way of it.
Well, I mean, you're not on the you're not on the Mount Rushmore.
My heroes growing up racing go-karts.
Okay.
Jamie Saraki, 100%.
Gotcha.
Jamie taught me every single thing I know about driving, basically.
Pro Tour winner.
Pro Tour winner. Fellow Pro Tour winner, Jamie
there you
Saraki.
Go, yeah.
And then when I was racing like Midwest Sprint Series and WK and Yamaha and stuff, you had like Brandon Adkins, Tony Jump, Tim Getch, guys like that.
Corey
the Margay
Reeves.
guys. Corey Reeves. Corey Reeves was huge when I was running Yamaha.
And HPV.
And HPV. I think I learned a lot from those guys. Kevin Nelson.
Yeah.
I remember standing on the fence at Dousman watching like a national race or something, and it was those 4 guys lined up, and they go through turn 1, and their hands don't even move.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, wow, they're so smooth. And then I go, that's what I got to do.
That's what I got to do.
So I would say those guys were formative for me, learning from them, just watching them.
We pause for this quick commercial break. Stay tuned for more here on the EKN Radio Network. Ready to step up your game? Joining the Rawlison Performance Group is the obvious choice to take your racing to the next level. Industry-leading driver development is provided by our staff of multi-time national champions, Super Nationals winners, and Team USA members. And at the same time, RPG continues to be a national-level powerhouse race team. Our goal is to help you raise your game and win races. We work with all age groups and are focused on developing those cadet and junior drivers who are ready to take the next step in their racing program. Rawlison Performance Group has set a new standard with our in-house engine program, AVP Engines, headed by Alex Vincent. AVP has become the benchmark in IAME competition. We have the largest OTK inventory that follows our race team, providing trackside parts at all the major events in North America. RPG also offers multilingual support with French, Spanish, and Portuguese-speaking staff. If you want to fight for championships or want to improve your skills and your chances to win, the answer is to call RPG at 503-260-4514. The Rawlison Performance Group. We race to win. The new face of competitive karting in the Pacific Northwest region is RaceLab. The full-service karting operation is located at the state-of-the-art Kartplex facility in Oliver, British Columbia, Canada, providing everything you need to hit the track or put yourself in a successful driver development program. RaceLab is the official North American distributor for the TB Kart chassis brand, providing the full range of models from kid kart to shifter kart. Villeneuve Racing Karts is their flagship product, available only through RaceLab. The brand carries the name of Formula One champion and Indianapolis 500 winner Jacques Villeneuve, with each model produced by TB Kart. Kartplex, the home of RaceLab, is situated on the grounds of the Area 27 Motorsports Park. From full arrive and drive TB Kart rentals to leagues and competition karting, the facility provides a new home to developing the future stars of motorsports, all beginning at Kartplex with RaceLab. Follow RaceLab on social media on Facebook and Instagram, or load up their website at www.theracelab.ca to learn more about TB Kart and Villeneuve Racing Karts. RaceLab. Race with us, win with us. Thank you for listening to the EKN Radio Network. We now join the show already in progress.
So those guys.
I think you got to put Ryan Norberg on the list of all-time great American karters.
And I was going to get into that a little bit, because when I first started with the website, like Gary Carlton, was just the most amazing shifter kart driver.
Me and somebody were talking about Gary yesterday, about how he went to Europe, and he was like, I remember reading Kartsport magazine or whatever and being like,
no. A great magazine. No, I loved it.
And I remember seeing him and be like, wow, he's like legit contending over in Europe where we don't normally contend.
No.
So that was pretty cool as like a young American karter to see that and be like, oh, like there's room, like you can do it.
So do you think Ryan's at that level of Gary Carlton?
It's tough because he's got to go over there and run.
That's the measuring stick.
Yeah, I think so. I think Europe is going to be the measuring stick for a while yet.
Do you think if he wins Supernats this year, if there's a lot of international drivers, do you think that'll help elevate your position with him?
To be honest, if Ryan went over to Europe and he put in a good effort over there and had the proper support, he'd be fine.
Okay.
It's a matter of him just doing it. I know he can do it.
Yeah.
But no, if he wins Supernats, it's not going to really change my opinion of him.
Okay.
In my opinion, he doesn't need to win Supernats to impress me.
Okay. Well, I mean, we've never had, especially in that category, a back-to-back winner.
Really?
Ever.
Huh. I
Think
didn't know
about
that.
it. Because if I recall,
I don't usually see the podium in X30 Pro at Supernats, so I don't know
you're
who's
on
up
the
there.
scale line.
Yeah,
you're watching Rob interview the winner.
Listening to it from
you're
the scale
listening,
line.
Yeah, you're like, what the hell did I do?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if I recall, I think Joel Miller was the first. No, it was Schechter that was the first tag winner in, I want to say, 04. And I don't think we've had a back-to-back winner in the tag senior / X30 category ever at the Super Nationals. So if he were to do it, it would be
pretty
first.
big then. Yeah.
So that's why I asked, because again, I don't think he's ever going to race in Europe. I think he's never going to do it because especially the way European racing is right now, it's all 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
And he's
23,
24.
Yeah. I don't want to say Ryan's old, but he's at the point now where he's not 14.
He's
like
where
the other
you
drivers.
were, not so long ago, right? Where you were the guy that was working a day job, coming to race karts on the weekend. But he's a little different because he doesn't quite have a regular day job. His day job is coaching and being at the racetrack. Right.
Yeah. Naturally, as you get older, you can't help it. You're going to start to get focused on other stuff because you have to. That's what happens when you get older.
I don't think he has. I think he's still focused on because he's got all the YouTubes.
Yeah, that's why he's still winning races.
And okay, so do you think if you were Ryan's age right now, do you think that it would have been easier to be competitive at this level because of all of the data, the videos, and everything like that? Do you think that's something that would have helped you even further than where you were when you were trying to come up through the sport?
Well, for sure, all that stuff would be helpful. But I was racing at this level at Ryan's age. It was only 8 years ago.
I mean, but it's a decade ago. I mean, a lot's changed.
I know.
I mean, there was no USPKS.
We certainly have been doing a lot more data and video lately, like in the past few years. It's gotten a lot more powerful, a lot more useful. We've learned how to interpret it and use it a little bit better. So I think if we had that, because I don't remember doing a lot of data when I was running. So 2016 was the last time I ran X30 Pro full-time, full season, SCUSA and USPKS. And I don't remember doing that much data and video.
Okay.
But maybe I should have, because I was not winning a lot of races. I was good, but I wasn't winning. But maybe that is the last step I needed.
But like you said, you look back, you're like, yeah, maybe I could have improved because I could have watched what I've done. Because again, memory muscle, it's not always there as you get older, and also you're making mistakes that you might not realize because. Again, a track like here, you can't see cell tower from the pit lane. So you have no idea, a mechanic or your father or anybody who's trying to help you can't see what's going on in that corner.
And that shows up quite easily on the data if you screw up the cell tower corner. Go look at my data on the last session. Yeah, screwed it up pretty bad.
I love how that came full circle.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say if I had more access to, I had access to it. If I would have used it a little bit more, I could have. I could have.
Okay, so you think Gary Carlton, Ryan Norberg?
It goes in streaks too. Like Ryan's been dominant for some years now, but we had Lemke's been dominant before. He's had streaks where he was #1 EKN driver for a long time.
Brandon Jarzakrak
too, and
Well, let me put it this way: if you had to pick one driver to be your teammate for a full season, who would that driver be?
Well, so I've worked with Lemke before, pretty good buds with them at this point.
Right. Well, you did a
And
Robopong together, right?
We did Robopong together, and I have seen his data, and I just can't do it. So whatever he's doing, I can't do it. I've wrenched for him, and I've given him some horrible setups on accident. So at Road America, quick story.
So you told him what not to do.
At Road America, when I was racing at Road America, like 2020 or whenever it was, when I sucked, I was also coaching and tuning for Lemke.
Yes.
So the one night, we were like, I think it's going to rain tomorrow. We should test and see if we can widen the front out all the way without hitting the side pod to make sure, because we might have to cut the side pod bar or something. So on the one side, we widened the front out all the way on one side to test it. And we go, oh, it'll be fine. And we never changed it back. So one side was full wide and the other was normal. And he went out there and went purple and qualified on pole or whatever it was. And then I realized, oh, it doesn't matter what you do. He's going to drive around it. That's why he's a complete driver. He can adapt and do all that stuff. So, but
I like that.
Yeah. If my go-kart's perfect and his is screwed up like
80%,
that.
70%,
and he's
or
still going to
even
go faster
50%,
than me.
yeah.
I don't need, the data's not going to do nothing for me at that point.
Oh my gosh.
I would like to have Ryan as a teammate just to see the data. I just want to
Right.
see what's going on over there.
So just, I think everybody in the paddock is thinking
yeah.
the same way.
Yeah.
And Gary, Gary's said it to us and a couple people. Like he's consistent, and that's something we keep going back to.
And I think that is where his age comes into play.
Yeah.
You get to a point where like he's a machine at this point.
Machine.
He's so well tuned at driving that he can just click off lap after lap after lap. And he's 23. He has 10 years of brains on some of these kids where he knows how to manage a race. So if somebody does him dirty, he's like, I'll get that back later. No problem. I'll back out of it now and I'll get back later. So I think that's what I'm relying on heavily at this point in my career is I hope I have more brains than the guys around me because I don't have the speed or the consistency anymore.
Well, and again, it goes back to racecraft. Again, something you're teaching with Korsasport, trying to teach them not only how to go fast, but how to race as well too. Because again, it's two totally different things.
Yeah.
Being quick is one thing, but being able to race and being able to understand what position or where you need to make the move is another thing.
Yeah, I've had a lot of experience qualifying really badly because I'm a horrible qualifier. So strtunately for me, I've had to work my way through a lot of fields, and I lean pretty heavily on that these days, knowing how to make the overtake, lose as little time as possible. That was one thing when I did these last couple national one-offs. I felt very good about my racecraft. I was like, I didn't make any mistakes passing out there. I was half a second off the pace, but I beat a lot of guys who were faster than me just because I knew where to stay out of trouble and where to go for it. So I think, like Ryan, you get to an age at some point where you're going to start the racecraft is going to be outweighing, whatever other deficiencies you have.
Yeah, and I don't think he has any deficiencies right now. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But any predictions for Supernats? Do you think Norberg's going to come through, or do you think there's going to be somebody else that might pop up?
I can't see any reason why Norberg would not be at the front of a prediction list. I haven't looked at the entries.
Do you think it depends on the track design? Do you think if we go back to what we've had before, do you think it's something that's going to be easier for him to defend as a former race winner? Or do you think if they throw something new that he might still have to fight his way forward, kind of like how he did last year?
The guys who are winning Supernats are the guys. Yeah. They're the complete guys. So if you throw something new at them, I don't think it's going to matter. They're going to adapt. And Ryan's got the resources, too. He's got a huge, great team where he's got lots of great data. He's got some dedicated support. So, the RPG machine is pretty tough to beat. And I would say that no matter what they do, they're going to figure that out pretty quickly. But I haven't looked at the entry list. I don't know who else is racing.
Yeah, it's probably going to get sold, or at least close to the 88 that they're holding. So it'll be a lot of drivers, and thankfully this year we're going to have international drivers. One last topic: shifter kart racing. Have you ever done any shifter kart racing?
I've never done shifter kart racing. Sometimes I look at Jamie always has a rock shifter sitting in the shop, and
he's a former shifter kart driver. He ran ICC a lot of times. Him and Troy Hotman.
Yeah, I sometimes see that sitting in the shop, and I go, God, it'd be fun to go for a rip on that thing. I don't know how many laps I'd be able to complete before I just completely fell out of the seat, but it never really appealed to me, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't know if it would suit my driving style so much.
Do you think because you came up through the single speed, especially
it's always
the,
been
the
low
Yamaha,
horsepower, single
low
speed,
horsepower, exactly.
yeah, momentum driving, and I mean I understand shifter to some point you have to do that too, but yeah, I don't know. It's just never. I've always liked ICA. I liked KF. Okay, that stuff. That's what appeals to me, and I don't know why. Maybe I'm wrong for thinking that way. I know some people are die hard, like KZ is the real deal, and anything else is boring, but. For me, it's just never really. I never really had the itch to do it.
Okay, I lied. I got one more because you said it.
Okay.
The OK platform.
Yep.
And now they're coming out with the OKN, trying to get club drivers. Do you think that platform is ever something that's going to work here in the United States?
I really wish it would, because it would just be cool to be on some sort of parity with Europe a little bit. I don't know why I feel that way, but growing up watching karting, being a lover of this sport,
right?
We know that Europe is where it all happens.
That's where you have to go.
The World Championships.
It's like if you want to be a model, go to Paris.
Right. Exactly.
No, we're not models, but
well, speak for yourself.
It's similar.
Yeah.
And
I would say. So when they announced that OKN thing, I thought that was pretty interesting, and it would be a cool thing to try out. But every time that Europe introduces some engine class, it just never can take off here.
Yeah.
It has to be at the right price point. It has to be something that's because we like cheap, reliable, but also fast. We're hard to please over here. But
well, yeah, that's a given.
The OKN thing seems like it would be perfect for us. But also, X30 is pretty strong.
Right.
And are you going to ask 30, 40 guys to switch a whole engine package and become the top tier class? From a driver's perspective, it would be really cool to have something faster and a little bit more purebred engine. But I mean, the X30 is a good engine package, and it provides good racing, and it's good parity, and it's going to be hard to get away from that at this point.
Well, do you think that we could ever get the World Championships in the United States?
I think we have facilities that are capable of hosting it, but
do you think the engine platform thing is a selling point? Like FIA is like, well, they don't even run what we have. Why would we go there?
I don't know, because we tried this with KF. They ran KF here in WSK North America or whatever they called it.
So it was kind of a world event that they had there in New Jersey a couple years ago, but it wasn't the World Championships, because obviously right now with Felipe Massa, they're trying to get it to Brazil. COVID hit, and so they weren't able to get it there. But do you think? I mean, we've had the Road Tax World Finals here in 2013. That was one of the most amazing events ever in the country.
Yeah.
I just see, we're a big market. As you keep talking about, we're a big country. It would be amazing to have the World Championships here.
Yeah, and it might be a good time for it, too, now that you have F1 really pushing hard into the U.S. with 3 United States races. Obviously, the FIA has a vested interest in coming to this market and trying to sell the sport of racing here. And it might, I would say that the popularity of motorsport in general is pretty high right now. With Formula One and all that stuff getting a lot more coverage here, I think it might be a good time to strike and try to bring a big kart race here. I don't know if it would really affect the class structure here at all. I don't know if we would adopt a class hoping to, get a world championship race or run that or whatever, but I think it would be cool. I drove the Rock DVS, I think they call it.
Yes.
Which is kind of like an OK. It's like an OK similar engine. I drove that when they tested it here because they did think about bringing it to USPKS.
Right.
And it was awesome to drive. It was so fun. And I would love to race. I mean, I can't race that at this point. But I would love to see that racing here.
Well, you could always run KZ Master. KZ2 Master, right? Like Jordan Musser and all them.
Well, I'm not going to be Jordan.
No, but at least you could race in that.
I'm not here just to race, David. I'm here to boost my ego and try to do something.
I love boosting egos because I don't ever get my ego boosted because I work with Rob Howden. I mean,
you beat me that one time in that practice session, in that Yamaha practice session. You were faster
So I heard
than me.
Xander talking about how he was fast one time because remember what USPKS used to do, the pizza for happy hour, right?
Yeah.
And Xander was talking about how one time he was quickest in happy hour, but they weren't doing the pizzas anymore. So he was kind of upset. And I'm like, Xander, I beat you in a happy hour. What the hell are you talking about? And it was the same one I beat you in.
Yeah, well, clearly he was having an off day.
And
that was the performance of your career, and it was an off day for me.
It was one of my performances because another one was 2 years ago at the Brickyard when I beat Michael Dittmer in a pre-final
in Yamaha.
In Yamaha.
That's a feat right there.
And
that
the
guy runs
Yamaha literally
well.
had a 5-year-old carb kit in it, so we had to. It was bad. Anyway, but it was. So now he calls me pre-final because I brag about beating him in a pre-final. But again, anytime you win at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you gotta own it, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it.
You got to ride that one for a while.
And I'm going to ride it all the way through my career.
That's all I'm doing at this point, too. Remember that one time I was fast 6 years ago in a practice session?
Well, you're just going to have to keep adding a year to it, right?
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah,
But,
I like to go through and cherry pick all the MyLaps results, all the ones where I beat IndyCar drivers or whatever it is at this point. And, I go, see that Kyle Kirkwood guy? I beat him one time
Kirkwood, Askew.
Kirkwood, Askew, Daly.
Yeah, Daly, that was,
I didn't really race against Daly, actually.
No,
I raced
think
against
he
him
was
in
more
juniors.
junior, yeah. I'm trying to think of other ones.
Me and Daly one time at Charlotte, we were running junior ICA, and we were both up there checking the timesheets after qualifying, and we were last and second to last, and we just looked at each other and we're like, "What's going on?" I don't know. We suck. We're bad.
That I listened to his podcast. It's funny because he did one with the Dale Jr. download, and he talked about racing JICA and how it kind of was an eye opener about they thought they could just come with one engine and one car. Like, I mean, you can do that, right? But it just kind of depends on the level that you're at.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no different than this stuff now, right? Don't you think?
I mean, that's kind of how I've raced my whole career. It's never been like we have 10 engines to pick from. We have multiple chassis to choose. It's me and my dad, or me and Scott, or whoever tuning the go-kart. And
it was him and his dad. Now, his dad was a Formula One driver, so it's a little different than that.
Yeah.
But, they had the one engine, the one cart, and he was talking about, I think it was Carlos Munoz or somebody like that was his teammate, where they had a trailer full of engines to go through and everything like that. And I'm like, well, it's not necessarily like that. Is it perception? Like,
it's perception, yeah. I mean, obviously money or whatever can help you buy a little bit of that stuff. It can kind of shortcut some of those things. But I do get annoyed when people are like, well, the only reason I'm not winning is because we're not spending $10,000 a weekend. Well, you can still win. You just got to make sure your one engine is dialed in. You got to make sure your driver's dialed in. And you got to make sure you know how to tune your chassis. If you can do those three things, you can be up front. It doesn't matter, you're racing one engine, you're one driver, and one chassis at a time. If you have 15 engines, you get to use one of them. Yeah, they may get to choose from the best engines, but these days, parity is pretty good. So it's not like you're getting monster engines out of there.
Great advice for not only your current customers, but your future customers as well in Korsasport. I think we'll end it there because I've held you up long enough to be able to do this. It's an hour and a half now.
Wow.
Counting the first take that we did. That was,
That flew by.
So it did. It was
I didn't even finish my beer.
I know. And that's the other thing, too. You probably got to get drinking. So, again, thank you, TJ Koyen, for joining us here on the hot seat. Appreciate it. Any shout-outs you want to give before we close this out? To anybody? Your wife,
shout out
maybe?
to young Lil Fletcher sitting at home. He has no idea where I am. He keeps asking where I am. Shout out to Jackie, my wife. She's probably not going to watch my final, but maybe she will.
Maybe she can listen on ekartingnews.com because we'll be
Jackie,
playing it.
if you're listening, go to ekn.com/live.
ekartingnews.com/live. Yep.
Yeah, that's where you're going to want to go. Or you can view it on YouTube, whatever, if you care. I don't know. You got a lot of stuff going on. Anyway. Shout out to Scott Kopp. He's grabbing a beer out of the cooler, and I'm about to do the same. But I'm just happy to be here, DC. Thanks for having me.
And I didn't touch on the van.
Oh, man. We got to talk about the van?
If you want.
You want to have another hour-long podcast
No. Let's
about
just do
dumb
a
vans?
5-minute thing about the van because
right.
it's a passion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird to say you have a passion about old vans.
I mean, everybody has their quirks.
This is a quirk for sure. Yeah, so if you don't know, I post about it on Instagram all the time, but I have this weird old Japanese van that was imported from Japan. It's a 1994 Toyota Hiace. I bought it because I wanted something weird. I wanted something quirky to haul my go-kart around in. And I drove it all the way here.
You haul your cart in it, so it's not like it's a cruiser or something to take the family around. Are you able to put both?
Yes.
So you're able to put the chairs back in.
Yeah. So the reason I got this nice, fancy, entirely too expensive, stupid 30-year-old van was because this one actually had comfy seats and was nice to ride in, so my wife and my kid would be a little bit more cool about driving around in this one.
They weren't embarrassed.
Fletcher really likes the van. He likes to go in there and play around in there.
Believe me,
I don't know.
You
She
probably
likes
had
it
a
as
van
much.
growing up, did you not?
No, we didn't have a van.
Oh, see,
My dad always had just pickup trucks, like 100 pickup trucks.
We had the Ford Econoline van. Like, literally, that was what I drove when I turned 16.
Oh, yeah, classic model, the old
had
Ford
the lights
Econoline.
up top by the roof.
Yeah.
Had the couch that turned into a bed, everything. It just
Nice.
didn't have the shag carpet like a lot of the older vans had. But, I can kind of relate because my kids, when my dad still had one, when they were little, they would run all over. They loved it. Like, my daughter told me, Daddy, why did we get rid of that van? I loved it so much because she just loved being. I think they love space.
It's like a lot of room in there, yeah.
It is. It's spacious.
Yeah, we took it camping, and Fletch just wanted to sit in the van and eat fruit snacks all day.
Why not?
He loved it. But yeah, I like it a lot. It's goofy, and it's not perfect for hauling go-karts around, but it does a pretty decent job. I've got it organized good enough, and it made the 6-hour journey here from Wisconsin no problem. So
Perfect.
I get a lot of stares when I'm driving it.
Yeah, and well, not to mention
It
you have a
attracts some
cart
attention.
sitting in there as well,
Yeah,
too.
and
So.
I'm on the wrong side of the vehicle driving.
Oh, I didn't even know that. You're
Yeah, it's right-hand drive.
kidding me.
Yeah.
So that's got to throw you off when you come here to race, too.
Yeah. I jump back in the van and I don't know where I'm going. I'm in the car and I feel like I'm all the way on the left side of the vehicle. Yeah. It's all
Right, because the engine's on the right. It pushes you to the left.
Yeah, it's like driving one of those Nitro Kart cadets with the 206
There
on the
you
left
go.
side. Yeah.
So, see, there you go.
Because the engine is right there next to you under the seat.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to check it out later this weekend.
Yeah, we'll go look at it.
All right. Again, thank you, TJ Koyen, for joining me on the hot seat here on ekartingnews.com. And again, congrats on coming back. We enjoy seeing you race. Again, it's a passion. We love seeing people come back and race. And we hope you keep coming back because I know you probably will, whether it be a year or even 3 or even 5 years from now. We know we'll see you back.
Yeah, can't stay away. We'll see. Maybe, and eventually, maybe the kids will be into it too. I'll always be at a go-kart track somehow.
And we can get into that next time that you come to the racetrack, maybe a little bit about the kids. So again, thank you very much. And thank you everyone for tuning in to the EKN Hot Seat here with David Cole. And we'll see you at the next one.